Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LJL OU podcast, season 2, episode 22. Actually, I think my podcast document notes are wrong. I forgot to update that.
I know, I'm not sure anymore.
It's all a blur sometimes. Your hostess with the mostess, you're the co-hosting guest, because a hostess is actually female, right? So I've screwed this whole thing up.
I've seen you when your girlfriend gets a hell.
See my Instagram.
I've seen what happens when the two of you decide to crossplay, and it's impressive. So you know, give it half an hour and maybe a charity goal, and we'll see that on stream one day.
I am Alex MaskedSwan. I am joined by my constant, ever-loving co-host of Samuel Initia1ise. Good sir, welcome to the podcast as always.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, how are you doing, buddy? How are you doing first off?
Not too bad. Kind of talent lineup got announced today for the British Esports Association finals, which I'm casting in person. Actually,
congratulations!
Which I am so excited.
In person, right?
I know it's going to be actually in person, so I am very
in your hometown as well, right?
I know. So going to go out with some of the. Going to be a load of people. So Temporal will be there, Milky Cereal, a few of our other friends. Counterfeit will be there. So we're all going to go out for a couple drinks afterwards as well, I suspect, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a load of fun. Have you done anything else? I mean, you've been a busy man from what I understand. It was at Nymaera's birthday yesterday or the day before.
It was Monday. Monday went out for that.
Monday,
which was really lovely. What was something else? I was on the mid-season breakdown podcast for UKEL, which was pretty big as well. Highly entertaining. Yep,
that tier list always.
We love it.
I mean, I saw the amount of drama. I was like, well, maybe we're gonna have to do one of these at some point. Like, I mean,
no, it's great.
It's idea for myself. Yesterday was a University Esports Masters, so I did UEM for Legends of Runeterra. So
of course, yeah, I forget you're in on that still. A card game aficionado does card game things.
Can't get me rid of it, mate. Like, whenever in doubt, they're like, we need someone strategy-wise. It's like, just grab Lexi. He'll figure something out. He knows someone as well.
I think the Legends of Runeterra matter at the minute. I mean, we're completely off topic already, but just curious what you think.
The problem is a huge patch and everything's just been changed again.
Okay.
So, before this, outside of the fact that Aurelia Azir was just
busted,
unfun, like it was just like people were calling for its ban, like
really?
It was so broken.
Wow.
Yeah, and like people were like, can we just have it removed? Like, this deck just isn't fun and it's just so oppressive at the moment. Outside of that, it looked like a really healthy metagame, and honestly, from a competitive standpoint, like an actual, if you're playing competitively, it's great. It was really good fun.
They've been pretty good at balancing the cards for Legendary, because you're not waiting for months and months for patches, because it's a riot game, so they patch it relatively quickly, which is fairly strong in terms of making sure nothing is super busted for super long times. Generally speaking,
and my co-caster and one of my best friends for our longest time, Future Sailor Dominic Gates, one of the guys also over at Belong. He was the color caster for the broadcast, and we were talking about this, and he was like, yeah, no, the game's actually great because he's only spent £50 on the game, and mostly for emotes and cosmetics. He's got almost every single card in the game for free, and it's just like, he's like, it is.
You pay for cosmetics, which I think is really cool for a card game, and I think it's an interesting shift. But we're way off
I think Wizards of the Coast should definitely take a leaf out of that, but that's definitely maybe a separate podcast. I'm
not having a Wizards of the Coast argument with you on stream. We're moving on. Take us out of here.
Maybe that's a separate podcast that we should one day set up. Who knows? Well, before we fully get into the nitty-gritty of this show, Initialize, for our people over in YouTube land, what would I like them to do for us?
Well, what they should do is watch the video. That would be great. Thank you, guys. Do that. Like, give us a few minutes, please. We need those takes. Aside from that,
we will get into Japanese League of Legends.
That little bell symbol. You need to hit the subscribe. You need to hit the like. You need to go on Twitter and all your social medias and share it everywhere. All of that.
Absolutely. And for all of you people in audio land, we're not forgetting about you. Don't think you can get away from us that easy, mate.
Unless you're on SoundCloud, then we can't touch you.
Oh, we don't touch you and they don't touch us, so it's kind of a to and fro kind of thing. If you can go on iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and also if you put in the review box and actually say something, we'll give you a call out, just like our YouTube commenter of Carl Korth. He says he loves the podcast as always. Also, V3 are going to win it all. You can quote me on that. We will come back on that one if they...
you on that, so it's happy now. Not even.
Thank you so much for that comment.
In, and that's the way it is.
Love the comment. Thank you so much for that as well. Huge shout out to you. Love the support. We all really do appreciate it. I don't actually think there's anything else I need to highlight, so we can just get straight into this, Initialize. And, so, ladies and gentlemen, let's just run through the standings. I think that's the easiest way to do this, and then go through. So, in tied 6th place, we have Sengoku Gaming and Detonation Focus Me at 1 and 3. And Burning Core. We have a 3 tied 6th place. Burning Core is also there on 1 and 3 as well.
Yeah. Horrific Scream was my inner shout of pain, so move on.
So was that for once, or DFM, or...
The lot, it's just everything is wrong. Everything is...
I mean, Sengoku Gaming's an even bigger fire, which we'll talk about later with Crash, and Ramune. In tied 3rd place... we've got the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, who, well done. Crest Gaming Act, flip coins, I guess, and then Axis.
They went 2-0.
Who they won? Like, okay. And then obviously 2nd place, 3-1 V3 Sports. We already had a call out for V3 Sports from a fan. I mean, we'll see. And then Rascal Jester 4-0, 100% win rate, 4-0 streak. Let's just get into, I think, honestly, the 2 biggest teams that are the most interesting to talk about from a positive standpoint. And then let's start going down the rest of the teams. Rascal Jester, they look particularly strong. And while I wasn't impressed fully with the gameplay on show from Rascal Jester, they still felt, you know how you just get that eye test, the feel? They still felt always a step ahead. They always still had a way around it. And I think when I'm more specifically saying I wasn't impressed with the gameplay this week, it's far more in that Rascal Jester V3 game. I was expecting fireworks and just huge mechanical stuff similar to what we saw last week from both of these 2 teams. It felt like this might have been a little bit of a step down, but the level of play was still very good. It's just I'm hoping for a bit more.
I mean, so there's probably 2 things. V3 are also pretty decent, and they gave it to Rascal Jester a little bit in the game. And there was that one overstep in the bots. I went, that was a bit stupid from Secret and Soul, but it's also the way they play. They're just quite aggressive. And then Kinatu, I think, got caught out a little bit on the top side one time on the Gwen. And then the thing is, they've got the Bard, which means there is a gank angle in bot lane when you're on red side.
Bard.
You tunnel through the wall by the Tribrush, you come in behind people, they burn double TP. Basically, Mugen was like, okay, I am going to place down Herald, and we're going to do it bot side before this dragon comes up. It's like, very telegraphed, and Rascal Jester goes, yes, you are, please, do this. Come into the jaws of death. And after that, it kind of just went away from them a little bit, and they ran this really cool comp with the Jesters where they had Gwen and Jin Zhao as their front line. So you've got Crescent Guard and Hallowed Mist, the W from Gwen and the ult from Jin Zhao, which offer really good conditional front line. Like, you can just immune a lot of damage unless people come and fight you in the Thunderdome.
They fully messed with the side of V3 with these ultimates.
Exactly. And then you add in, you have a Zoe and a Varus who have gone poke Varus as well, so you've got mixed poke versus not really a big tank team. You've got a Tom Kench bot who is farming with the Senna, but not the biggest tank. You got an Olaf as well, who is a drain tank. He's a HP stack. He's not necessarily.
Olaf, Bard,
Yeah, exactly. And then the thing is, it was still a relatively interesting game. The problem was that Rascal Jester rolled absolutely incredibly well with Ocean Soul. So you've got 2 drain tank front lines. It was Gore Drinker, Jin's out, and a Gwen, plus double poke to proc Ocean Soul easy as you like. And it's like, okay, how do we beat this? Well, you time out the conditional front line, right? So Jin's out runs out, and then we can't hurt them. Well, then we can hurt him again. Or Gwen W runs out, and we can hurt them. If you're trying to do that,
thing is,
plus
Rascal Jester's nailed this. Right? Yeah. First off, they're not stupid. They know how to layer their abilities. Crazy idea, I know, lads. And then the fact is, they got the Ocean Soul as a get back out of jail card with the poke, as you said, from Recap and Soul. And the fact is, Secret, I did a little bit of research on this because I was like, Bard, interesting. Huge props to all the players, but Bard's secret. Bard stats spring, right? Only pros flare. Yeah, the NLC player that had the most amount of games in spring, and he had 4 games in spring. In summer, people are only playing it really like 1 game. It's seen a few games in the LPL, but it's only been from 1 individual player. No one's done what Secret did, though. No one's had a KDA as absurdly disgusting as what Secret had. And it was like, my god, this is kind of crazy. And this also just shows me, at least, I don't know about you, that there's a lot of room still for Rascal Jester to grow.
Yeah. So interestingly as well, I believe that was Secret's first ever Bard win. His 4th game ever on Bard. The other 3 have all been losses. Just did it. Wow. I thought I remembered him playing more on it, and clearly he hasn't, which is really interesting. But there you go.
Huh.
So yeah, it was a very good Bard game. Mostly speaking, it was like once when they ever stepped in the laning phase. And in fairness, if that hadn't been an Ocean Soul, you have Senna, who got a ridiculous amount of souls, plus a LeBlanc versus not really anybody who is tanky, right? Like, you can still burst out Gwen and Jin.
Yeah, you can still burst through those,
especially if you're jumping in, right? It's a Bard, it's not a tank engaged support as well. So, and then you got a Senna who can run people down with the Glacial Augment, and that's the way you play it. And then you have Karma and Olaf running as kind of like a frontline with the shields. But that doesn't matter if actually you get out healed, plus it's an Ocean Soul, so you can't time out the front lines, and it just like. You saw later, haha, we're going to try and play this. It just became increasingly untenable. Really cool game.
And the amount of times where they were just looking to just pick one person off and then just force awkward 4v5s, and V3 just got put in that spot a lot of times because Secret was like, I'll just Bard out one person. If we get one person, we win. And that's commonly how they did it. If we look over...
desperately try to stay alive. Like, he tried so hard, but it was really hard work. Yeah, anyway.
We could keep talking about the V3 Rascal Jester game. We're going to talk about that side from more the V3 side in a moment, but we need to talk about the other game. And it's not going to be fun for this other team when we have to talk at it from their perspective. But I think this one's a very easy golf clap for Rascal Jester. You go, yes, well done. You know how to operate your comp. Little bit of a unique draft. We get to see another enchanter coming out from Secret. I know Bard's technically an enchanter, technically not, but like... He's a roaming enchanting support, so he does his thing. Playing the Karma, I thought the Karma was going to go top for Kanatu, or even mid, and then it turns out it's actually a full triple flex for them. They get to put Kanatu on his Renekton. He absolutely slapped around Paz. Hatchamech had a god of a game with those. He was playing very Hoglet-esque with his Renekton ults. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, on the other side, I also think so Rascal did a really good job of attacking where Sengoku struggle, which is namely like can we put Ramune in a difficult position? Because that's what kind of happened. Is like Ramune, because the thing is, I was talking with Mervin after this, and he was furious with Sengoku gaming. Not necessarily Ramune per se, but Sengoku. Specifically said, okay, you call Ramune down to help out with the play. I think it was towards the bot side. You call him down to come and there, and he dies for it, which is because obviously they've called him down to come and help with this play, and he dies, and then he comes back mid, and he's like in an awful position with where the wave state's at, with where his lane's at. He needs like Crash or NT to just come up and help him, and they don't. They leave him on an island, and he just chain dies because he can't do anything. He's a Silas. He has to go in to clear the wave, and basically, it's just like every time he does, he just absolutely gets murdered. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's not great from Ramune. But on the other hand, it's like, it's not as one-sided as it looks on screen. Because actually, like, Melvin was like, I'm sure we have to have a word with him at the same point. Just saying, like, it was just a really difficult situation. Like, yes, he goes 0-6-1 on the Silos. And Rascal Jester, well, this is great.
This was not a great week for Ramune on Silas. Like, the other game was just as bad. And I mean, honestly, some credit also due over to Hatchamecha Recap. They were getting, max wave shot ranges. They were getting huge damage out onto it, like getting Conqueror stacks really early on, Stride Breaker in full combo, and Ramune is just, like, dead before he can even... after a flash. It's like, what do you do at that point if you're him?
You need someone to come and help him out, basically, is the deal. And even then, like, if you go back to that... Well, we'll talk about Sengoku probably later, but it's like, Rascal Jester absolutely ran this game over. But I do feel a little bit bad for Ramune for just being left strung up to the wolves in the mid lane, and Rascal Jester tore him apart. It wasn't a close game. It was just like, Sol and Secret get lane prio, Ramune gets torn apart, game's over.
it's amazing. Sometimes we feel a bit more bad for mid laners getting the direst treatment of just getting the cold shoulder from the whole team, and we're like, oh, poor mid laner, you're in the middle of the map, you're not meant to have that. And then you just see Nap in the top lane. It's like, yeah, mate, just play weak side for 3 weeks, and then we might come to you. It's like, well, it's a wild ride we do. We do some mental gymnastics here, but hey, it's how the game goes, and that's why we're there. Rascal Jesters, though, overall, they fought one of the top teams and one of a team that we had high expectations for, and they looked pretty good in both showings. If you ask me now, I think they're going to go at least now the rest of the gauntlet probably undefeated. I think they've done the hard matches now.
So you think...
this is Rascal Jester. I think they'll go 8-0 now. Or 7-0 or whatever.
Unless they try to
7-0.
stretch how they play the game a bit again. Because again, if I'm looking at Jesters, I mean, they ran the poke comp, which I suppose is a bit of a different look for them. That's true. But even so, that last game was quintessential Rascal Jester, right? Like priority bot lane, stable mid lane, Hachimecha and Kinatu on things that can help in team fight space. But that's kind of partly the way the meta's working as well at the minute. But maybe they might say, okay, maybe it's time to experiment a bit more. Can we get recap on something like a TF, or go for a carry through Hachimecha type fight, get him on the Kane again, something like that, or draft the Gwen for Kinatu and play to topside, get Sol on Senna.
Right.
Did a little bit.
Try this stuff.
I'd like to see them kind of open up the playstyle a little bit more, because we saw that did hurt them in best of fives. And that's my one thing for Jesters. I was just like, I'd like to see you push the boat out a little bit. You're clearly very, very good at this style, and it's great to see. But that's my one caveat.
The question will be, if DFM never come online, is there any reason to even do this? But V3 are definitely going to be licking their lips at trying to get another spot at Worlds once again, especially if you're Lina and Ace going, hey, we swapped out 3 players and we still make it back. Clearly shows that we've got some pedigree, and V3 Esports are the next team we're going to talk about. Obviously, we've already mentioned about this game for V3 versus Rascal Jester, but from the V3 side, this was a match that, as we've mentioned, in spots, they could have won this. There were actual chances for them.
Yeah, exactly. I know there's been a little bit of debate in the team about how much they like V3's comps. I know, for example, you, Lexi, weren't sold for a bit, but I know some other people were like, yeah, I see.
Oh, no, I hate their draft here.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I hate their draft, but they were 1k ahead early game, and I'm exactly. They actually could just beat them.
So full context, Lexi hated it. I know a few other people went, no, I can see how this works. They went for a Karma top with the Olaf, Tom Cage center bot lane, which they managed to get last 2 picks, and they went for Ace on the Blanc in the mid lane. And in some ways, you see kind of how it works. If they hadn't, and the thing is, if Rascal Jesters hadn't rolled Ocean Soul, there is a world where Senna becomes really obnoxious to either the Jin Zhao or the Gwen who's standing in front of them. They don't want that. It's awful. Unless they can dive on her, and there's a Tom Kedge behind her. And then Karma gets to speed up Olaf, who runs at somebody else who's left out of the way. And Ace gets to be kind of scary LeBlanc with Deathcap, Ludens, Void Staff, and detonate anybody who works too close. You see how that works. I prefer Rascal Jester's comp, don't get me wrong. I think it's significantly... I prefer that with some of the picks at the minute, but at the same time, I don't think V3's comp was unplayable until Ocean Soul came in. And actually, I thought Ace had a pretty good game, all things said and done. I think his LeBlanc was actually pretty scary. He managed to get 1 or 2 picks that held the game on longer, but I do think it was something around the lines of just unfortunate rolls and Rascal just being pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't get themselves caught out. They never overextended, and they never kind of put themselves out of vision. And one credit to Rascal Jester, that some of the other teams in the LJL haven't been doing as well, is Rascal Jester is very good at playing around the vision, and V3 is also very good at respecting other teams' vision. And you know where I'm going to tangent this into? The Crest Gaming Act versus V3 game. Jesus Christ, this wasn't even the biggest stomp, but in another way, it was the biggest stomp. This was just unadulterated Ace popping off, Hollow popping off, Reiner popping off, Mujin popping off. Wait a moment, this is all the players. Who am I missing? Cog, 0, and 16 on a Lulu? Yeah, that's popping off. What? This was hard to watch at points for a Crest Gaming Act perspective.
Yeah, 20 kills to 1. It was a bit duped. And it was against the scaling comp as well. You were running, we were running Lulu, Galio, and Thresh with the Jinx main carry and a Volley Bear as well, right? Like, you ever jump... If that Jinx is left to free fire, it's a nightmare. I mean, you had LeBlanc and Xin Zhao with a Jin to follow up with a North to try and, kill the Jinx and assassinate her. But, basically, what this game showed was the other side of Cassin, which is that sometimes he just... ints. Like, he only goes forwards, does this guy. And this was a game where if you engaged without awareness of cooldowns, or then,
doing exactly what you're saying is how he gave over first blood.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he goes in and just dies. It's a horror. And I get you're in a Jinzo, I get you're a strong early jungler, but you've got to be aware of Lulu polymorph and Volibear counter engage and Galio counter engage is the really big one, and there's a Thresh, and a Thresh is able to lantern you out, and it's a bit of a disaster. And the problem is, once it started snowballing the other way, there's Crest Gaming out fall apart if Cassin falls behind, and Nation as well wasn't really in a position to poke people out, to try and be poked to buy some cooldowns and space, so that didn't really work out. And Nap was on the Gwen and looked fine, but the rest everywhere else had kind of gone horribly wrong. Alchemy
and that's just kind of
flash plays, but everyone else is so far behind it doesn't matter. It's just a bit of a disaster, really.
Yeah, it feels bad for Milan. Got a great first game for Chris Gaming. That second game on his birthday doesn't work out so well. Happy birthday over to Milan as well. Belated at this point, but hey ho. I mean, honestly, this was just a game where I got to look at it, I got to watch it and go, yeah, Ace is a pretty good player. And I got to feel happy about being in his corner all this time. I'm like, yeah, you are pretty good, mate. And you're having a damn good performance on one of your, signature champions in the LJL versus someone that was potentially going to be a difficult challenge. And it seems like you actually got away with murder against Nation, because your jungler came and their jungler came and donated a kill over to you, and then you just kind of take it from there, and he absolutely soared. Hollow also huge hard carry performance on this Jinx as well, just was outputting ridiculous. I think in one fight he dealt 6 or 7k early damage, in a team fight. It was like an early game team fight. It was like, what are you doing? How?
Yeah, obviously, again, Sol is going to be the one that people turn to as far as AD carries, but I think Hollow on the Jinx looked pretty good. He had some fancy footwork on the center as well, trying their very best to stay alive, considering everything coming at him against Rascal Jester. So, good stuff, I think, from the V3.
End of the game, 21k total damage to champions. So, and next closest one was Ace on 13k. So, definitely pulled their weight. V3 Sports, honestly, I mean, currently, if you ask me how things are going, they look like they're going to be a lock for first/second, depending on how things going. And they're playing clean League of Legends.
They are
more than anything else.
They definitely are. I'm still they're buying into a lot of the enchant stuff, which I quite like. I think particularly the top lane, I think that's not a bad thing to be doing at the minute, especially if you're trusting Hollow to be carrying on things. And he's got a split under his belt, looking a bit more confident. That's good to see. He seems great on the Jinx, which is pretty good in meta right now. Yeah, I think these guys fairly solid lock for top 4. We'll see whether, so Rascal Jesters, V3 are the two that come to mind. And then I'm assuming DFM pick it up. We'll have a conversation about that in a bit. And I'm a little bit more worried about Sengoku, I have to say. But
there are a few teams I'm pretty worried about as we move forward. And let's actually go on to Detonation Focus Me, because this is the team that we have to talk about.
We do.
We have no. It's like it's an obligation for us. We must talk about the LJL. We must talk about Destination Focus Me. This was meant to be the 2-0 week. This was meant to be the easier 2-0 week. And this was a 1-1 week. And honestly, this was a bad 1-1 week. This is maybe the worst 1-1 week you could chalk up for DFM outside of going to 0-2 again. This was not good initially. I would honestly rather rant about Burning Core, so I'm going to hand over Axis to you, if that's okay.
Are we doing Axis or DFM here? So, all right, so the Burning Core.
Well, no, doing the Axis DFM game from Detonation's perspective, because I want to flame Destination Focus Me on a win they got.
It's week 1 all over again. They get massively far ahead, and then basically, DFM have the Baron, they're shoving down mid lane, they're way ahead of the curve. As I said, 6,500. And then there is the miracle Hail Mary play to rumble ult into teleport to get a big team fight, and that's serious credit actually over to Axis, because that was
huge credit.
And DFM are going to feel a bit aggrieved by that one, because that was a bit unexpected, and they get like aced there, and then from that point the scaling starts to kick in a little bit for Axis. You know, they've got a Jinx, they've got a Gwen. There's no real way on the side of DFM to mitigate the rumble ult either. They're not running a Karma, so you know, if you can get that all working together, it gets a bit scary, and then they kind of lose. And at that point, they just realize that actually we're struggling here to survive the counter engage a little bit, and that's problematic.
To do much of anything, really.
And the thing is, they've been playing pretty well up to that point. Like, they got the 6.4k ahead, they were shoving in the base, it looked pretty clean. One team fight goes right, and the scaling kicks in. It's like, oh dear, it's too late.
And hilariously, they did this. They lost the fight when they had Baron.
Yeah, exactly. They were shoving in, like they got teleported behind. Rumble ult pinned them to a wall. Teleport comes in, they can't escape, and it was a bit of a frustrating one. They're going to be watching over that VOD and feeling a bit frustrated. I think part of it is that there was still a bit of a disconnect with Gang, who was on the Leona and made some wonderful solar flare engages and made some very poor ones too. And I think part of that is just being on the same page as being on the same page as the team, really, with like, if Gang's going in on a Leona, that the team needs to be there to follow up, because otherwise you just because you're in there by yourself. And there was a few times when
Gang and Steel were doing different fights in the same fights, and it was like, this is just very mishmash. There wasn't quite sure. And against worse teams like Axis are, like in our power rankings, we're being honest here. This is, even when you're doing all of this, you expect DFM to still just find the win. Yeah. They just normally find the win, and they just didn't. They just got kind of prevented. I'm not going to call out any of the Axis players here, because obviously we're going to do that when we talk about Axis, but this was kind of disappointing. Ebby didn't have a standout game. He was fine.
He had a fine laning phase, and was obviously DFM had a good early game. Early to mid was, again, it's bizarre because DFM's early to mid game stats are great. They're literally
they have the best. Good. You saw that. You saw the stats I posted in the.
That's the reason I'm not crazy worried about them yet, but they're going to be kicking themselves. Like, how are we losing massive gold leads like this? Because it was a bit dumb, honestly. And I think it is just a little bit of coordination in the late game that's hurting them right now. And I don't know whether that's because there's a little bit of, oh no, somebody's caught, let's turn around and try and fight it out, which has happened. That happened versus...
Oh god, that was summer 2020.
No, it happened with the TF. Who was they playing against? Was that V3? Was V3?
Or this week, or Burning Core?
Last week.
Oh, last week.
Well, where people get caught in the top side, Ari gets caught, so they go and try and rescue it.
Well, they played Rascal Jester and V3, didn't they?
Yeah, and the Rascal Jester one, they got a bit rolled.
Yeah, they got absolutely rolled by Rascal Jester and V3.
They were massively far ahead again. Like, they had that huge gold lead, and then
they were.
And then basically it's like, and then someone gets caught, so they try to outplay it and turn it around, and then it goes wrong, and say, oh well, that was a bit stupid, and then they realize they've given away loads of advantages. And I feel that's happened in a couple games now. So I think there's just got to be a little bit of a call about, you need to work out when to cut your losses and when you can actually try and turn it around. And having tanked, a full Rumble ultimate with no way to shield it, really, Locket's on cooldown or whatever, maybe now is not the time to turn around and fight, guys. It just is the big one. So, yeah. Now the Burning Core game was an interesting one, though.
Okay, so I have never seen Detonation focus me, and players with these kind of nameplates make macro decisions like iron players. Like, it was painful to watch. So there were a few of us sitting in a second Discord chat, just helping out any ideas and stuff. We were on the side, right? There was about 3 of us in this chat, and we were losing our minds at the ability that DFM just didn't know how to play side lanes. Like, for whatever reason, they had just lost the inability to play full side lane pressure. It got to a place where a few of us were genuinely thinking, against a pretty good team with macro play, similar to week 1 of V3 and Rascal Jester, I think they turn it. And similar to how Axis turned it, there was a chance that Burning Core could have turned this. Now, frankly, the draft doesn't really allow them to have much of that option. So at least, hey, Detonation Focus Me had that security in their back pocket of, well, at least they don't have giga late game scaling like with a Jinx or a Cogmore or something else. They have an Ezreal who's fine, but he's not going to be the giga late game carry on as opposed to Utapon and Kai'Sa. And honestly, credit, I'm going to have to shout out one player who I actually think just said the fuck it button at one point. That was Utapon at the end of the game, because he just landed a few ults and was just like, screw it, I'm just going, and just ulted into the middle of them. Cathian rained about 3 of them, was just like, Zhonya like popped his stopwatch and was just like, come on, we're either going to end it now or the game's over, I don't care. This was bad. 45 minutes, 8 kills across all of it. Burning Core get 1 of them, 7 kills to Donation Focus Me. Most of those are at the end of the game, and this was one of the worst games I've ever seen from Donation Focus Me, and I am worried for the trajectory that this could show, because this could have been an 0-4 DFM we're talking about here.
I'll perhaps take a slightly more mellow tone on this one.
I'm pissed. Fuck DFM. That was bad.
What this basically was is like, look, what we do is we scale, and we do so because we outscale pretty much everywhere, in the sense that, there's Renekton and LeBlanc, which is whatever, but actually, like, you can just be an additional front line. You've got a Viego, you've got a Kai'Sa, no one's going to be able to actually, Rumble ult's going to hurt this game, because no one's really going to be buying, have massive shields.
Much magic, really, yeah.
So, so that, there's no one, exactly, you're the one magic damage to that as well, so people don't really want to buy loads of magic resist. So, basically, they said, okay, look, I think First Blood came through at 24 minutes, because they basically said, look, we have got a 2,000 gold lead, purely off laning and waiting around. Like, it is absolutely fine. We are in no rush here. We outscale you. It is the onus of Burning Core with the LeBlanc and the Lee Sin to get things happening early. They didn't. And I think the other thing, and on that front, kind of fine. I'll admit that, like, the first Baron steal from once was just goddamn dumb.
Oh my god, that just shouldn't have happened.
Well, no, but I think it was like DFM was saying, okay, maybe this is the time to fight, basically, and they just turned anyway. That was bad. But aside from that, what it basically said to me is like, look, we have thrown 2 games now. 2 games where we have played way more aggressively, way more cocky, and we've got massive gold leads, and then just thrown it away. And basically, someone of the coaching staff has gone, you are going to play this slow, you're going to take no risks, because we are not going 0-4. And I think that's more what happened, in the sense that, like, look, Ebby's going to play the side lane, and he'll shove up, and he'll be fine. He's not going to play it too aggressively. We just need to wait till we've got items. Kai'Sa gets all our items. Viego gets to steal whoever dies, and they win the game. And, like, Burning Core didn't make very much in the way of proactive plays. Now, was it a pretty game from DFM? No. Should you potentially yell at them? Sure. But I think the decision was on the day, is like, look, we've thrown 2 massive leads this game, or over the 2 weeks. Just play it.
And they did come right off of the Axis game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I can see that a little bit.
Just go and win. That's the big thing. We'll come back in next week. I don't care about you playing styles. I don't care about looking good. I just care about it happening with no chance of like throwing it away. And even then, there was that one Baron steal, which is a bit dumb. And it's not like Burning Core got anything with it, but the point is, like, that was the one bit where I go, that's against the game plan.
So I'll let you know one thing that kind of made me worry, and you'll understand this because we've had many conversations about this. This is now the longest game in the LJL already.
Yeah.
And it's 2 minutes longer than the Sengoku Burning Core wild ride from last week was, which we didn't really want to talk about much. This is a worse showing, really. That game now looks better. Oh, well. It's amazing when the grass looks greener sometimes.
The thing is, the fear is like, every time we've shoved with Baron, we've lost. We're just not going to take risks. And eventually they get the chance to pull the trigger. They've got 6 items on this Kai'Sa. She's got a GA. They've got 3 GAs because they had a Renekton GA and Viego with GA. At which point they say, we literally cannot lose this if we go in. Let's just go. And that's the point which they choose to do it. And I grant you it's slow. I grant you it's not pretty. I grant you it's not the best way to play. But it's that one of like, we're 0-3. Not again. And I understand the mindset, even if it is a bit dumb. And it's not what you want to see from the team that should be your best team. So
exactly. Hopefully they can turn it around and start actually playing better League of Legends. They can
combine the two of not inting on Baron pushes and getting your 6k gold leads, and they'll be fine. But there's like some coordination issues when things are hectic, clearly, at the minute. So
it's not good as well. It's going to be interesting to see how fast they're able to turn this around. They've got a few weeks. As long as they stay in the top 6, they can make playoffs.
I don't care too much. Like, we've seen this before from DFM. Like again, it's not what I want, but I don't think DFM are going to feel too like stressed until they're not in playoff contention.
This is just going to make our case when we're trying to explain to international experts why DFM are so good when they lost to Axis in week 2 in an absolute fiesta game and they went almost 0-4.
That's a fun one.
That's going to be an interesting conversation. Hopefully they can turn it around and look really, really good, and then we can just be like, it was just early
combine
weeks.
the two. Just take the early game cool stuff, stop hinting with Baron. That, like, the coordination with Gang should be fine.
It's meant to be hard to do that. It's meant to be hard, you Baron.
Yeah, like, all I'll say is I'm glad to see Ebby's willing to play Viego. That's good news. I need to see what the hell they're doing with Gwen, because they've not touched it yet. That's the only other one.
No.
A bit worrying. But again, the other thing is, like, this is a conversation, like, I know Sven was having on the LCS as well. It's like, look, we spent weeks playing, Tristana, Kai'Sa, Xayah. And that's just not the meta right now. Kai'Sa's kind of in there, but that's just not the meta right now.
Kai'Sa's the only one, yeah.
Yeah. And effectively, DFM have come back from MSI, they've taken a couple weeks off, they've come back in, and now they've got a new support in, and it's like, okay, we've got to relearn the meta, and everything's different, what the hell's going on? Like, there's a lot of big changes, particularly for top and bot lane. And if you're not, and I like literally,
I don't know if I buy that as an excuse for DFM because of how long their players have played for.
Well,
I actually don't know if
there's a lot of new champions. It's more like actually how are you playing the game more than actually can you play the champion.
I don't know. I still don't fully see from DFM.
Cloud9 have been struggling. Mad Lions have actually done mostly okay. They've dropped 1 or 2 games.
But not everybody's going to struggle, obviously.
But Down1 struggled, RNG struggled. Yeah, like a lot of these teams coming back from MSI, like, because it actually has been quite a big meta shift in the whole scale of things. Like, particularly, like, you cannot run Mage's mid lane at the minute. Like, Phase Rush is dead.
But it raises an interesting question of how big was DFM as a fish? Were they a big fish in a very small pond, or was this pond actually far more populated with other larger fish, and we just hadn't seen that a lot of the time? Or is it just DFM came back a bit smaller from MSI, and now we're waiting? Like, I'm using this analogy because
I think probably a bit of all of that, because I actually think West Coast Justice are quite good. But as I said, like, I need to see more strings in that bow, because you might be really good at one thing, but if you ever if someone takes that sword away from you,
if they just ban 3 of them and first pick your 4th one, you're just
exactly. So maybe a bit of a worry. Like V3, we can see this guy's actually feel pretty good with the current meta. I'm pretty happy for them with some of the enchanter stuff. So I think they've got a fairly good meta for them. I worry more for Sengoku. I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute too. But yeah.
Let's move on to the team that actually gave one of these losses to Detonation Focus Me this week. The only team to give a loss to Detonation Focus Me. And it's so weird to say this, but they're tied 3rd at the moment, are Narwhals Axis. What a performance! They beat Detonation Focus Me, they beat the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, they went 2-0, and guess what? In one of these matchups, it was well played from the side of Axis, and in one of these, they caught the fucking ball, which, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, is a talent in and of itself. Obviously, the obvious man of the hour for this weekend for Axis is Honey. Maybe player of the weekend if we start doing that again, or player of the day.
Good job. The double Jinx games were with 5-2 and 13, 5-2 and 10 across 2 games. Beautiful stuff.
Had some of the highest damage output numbers of the whole weekend as well.
Great weekend, yeah.
He played huge. I mean, let's first talk about the DFM game, because obviously that's the far more like, whoa, crazy game. Obviously, it's not that the other game doesn't have a lot, because actually there's a lot to unpack in that one as well. But in all credit, DFM threw this game.
They did.
I think you have to look at it from that perspective, because I completely agree with you. This was a game that DFM should have won. This should have been at the 22-minute mark when you're 6k up and you've just aced them and you've got a Baron. You're done. Like, the game's almost over. Let's just go through the motions and do it. They fumbled those motions. Axis were able to get the Baron, get a few kills. Well, actually, they killed... Mega Man got a kill on Gang. They were then able to get the Dragon, run over, test for Baron, actually kill Detonation Focus Me around the Baron pit, secure Baron, and then just... Oh, guys, it's 30 minutes into this game almost. We can just push an end.
So, so some of the late-game shot calling. I mean, I'll also give credit, because Axis were done, and then there was the
they were,
and it was a great teleport in with a ward that managed to survive, like, by the downed tower at tier 1 in mid, with a really
huge.
good Rumble ultimate from Hoglet. Again, there wasn't really a lot of ways to shield that. Like, you had a locket from Leona, that's kind of it. Everyone else just had to sit there and suffer. It was late enough in the game that there was enough items on Rumble for that to happen. And, you know, that was a Hail Mary. She listened. The prayers were answered. Yeah, like, it worked.
It was.
It worked, and then at that point, it's like, okay, you know, Honey picked up a few of these kills. Hoglet's pretty scary. Yeah, like Nemo and Inno.
I want to call out Inno. I want to call out Inno for this. His Gwen play, just getting into the middle of DFM's faces, was causing them so many issues. Because the amount of times you watched Inno and just go, you can't be targeted. He can't be targeted. DFM, he can't be targeted. Yeah. And they're just like, can't kill the Gwen. And Honey this whole time is just like, and then Hoglet this whole time is like flamethrower.
Particularly in the late game, you could see the DFM like let the Gwen through, thought they could play. They played well around it fine early game. Like, she didn't get a lot done.
They played so well around it.
And then then it got towards the later game, and it was like, okay, so you know, like, basically like the Lee Sin and the Jin were doing nothing, and then obviously he's like, Ebby's stuck in mini now, he can't do anything.
Gang just got ulted into the whole team.
Yeah, so like,
Ebby got ulted.
It's just like, okay, yeah, she got 2 items. Oh dear. And then Honey, on the other hand, was on 4 items at the end of the game. It was like, yep, you can see who they funneled resources into. And you know, if you're busy trying to deal with a Set, Thresh, and a Gwen, and you can't, and the Jinx is free firing, then that's gonna suck for all involved.
Yeah, and honestly, well played on catching it. Yeah. I know I've said this a few times,
but they caught it really well. And, you know, again, like that mid lane play was actually genuinely, as far as like last gasp efforts, is one of the best I've seen. Really good stuff.
Yeah, and to be fair, this was a game they had no right in winning, but they got it. No. They got the W, and they did a 2-0. So bless them, they must be feeling pretty good about themselves. Alpha, pretty disappointing week 1 for them. I think obviously expectations were a little bit higher for them on week 1, not getting a win, but it was against pretty tough competition, a V3 and Rascal Jester, coming in and getting a win over the Hawks and now DFM. That's definitely going to kind of perk yourself up and go, well, we should make playoffs now, lads. We should do this. And the reason you should make playoffs is because actually, when a few of your members pop off, like against the Hawks, my god, yes, I called out Inno for his great Gwen play of just getting into the middle of the heads of DFM in that last team fight or two and just good placement. Nah, his Nocturne though. He's Nocturne though. 7-0 and 8, and this man was just popping the ultimate and just going, Paranoid, you can't see Honey now, you can't see Megamin, you can't see Hoglet, and then they just wombo comboed. So much was there. Great communication. You could just tell they were like, go in, done, and it's an easy comp to like actually just execute. Texas did it well, and Hawks felt a little bit impotent at times.
A little bit. Like the first blood was a bit of a dumb one.
Really dumb.
And then like, you know, but at the same time, like, it was pretty even for the early game. Hawks turning it around. They get a big sort of like 3-for-1 before the Ocean Drake. They had the Herald. Like, it was looking pretty good. They managed to get themselves like 1,000 odd gold leads. Like, okay, things are kind of working together. This was also the first time, I think, on a pro stage we'd seen the Lee Sin Senna bot lane, which of course 100 Thieves did on the weekend as well, to much better effect.
The same day, I think it was, we saw it.
Actually, yeah.
Because I remember tweeting that out, and I was like, wait, I saw this go bad already once, and I trusted that bot lane.
I mean, like, Lee Sin is now effectively a 4 to 5 way flex, depending on whether you consider the Lee Sin the carry or the support, right? Senna enables a lot of this craziness if you've got a bot laner who can do some stuff with that. It didn't work out here. Zenit didn't really find too much on the Lee Sin. And effectively, like, okay, so, you know, you've got yourselves about 1,000 gold lead. You've got that second, you've got that Ocean Drake, you've got the first Herald. Things are starting to kind of come back around. You've got a Silas and a Viego, 2 big heal tanks. You get steal ult, steal souls. It's, you know, you can see how this is going to work. And then basically the second Herald fight happens, and Nocturne, Diana is a hell of a combo, it turns out, with Leona and Renekton diving in as well. Like, there are dive combos, and then there's that kind of dive combo. And from there, it's just like, can do no wrong, I swear. Like, fantastic stuff on the Nocturne.
He was pressing the ult pretty much whenever it was up, and it felt like it was always going to be around. Like, the moment it was up, they were like, guys, where's the next play? I can go anywhere. And when you've got Megamin on a Renekton who is always eager beaver to go in, because Renekton early game's really good, Renekton mid game's pretty good, Renekton late game is okay. When you've got Hoglet on a Diana, if Hoglet finds anybody, he's just like, now, Like that's the terrifying thing. Hoglet at any point can just go now to Inno, and then it's like, okay, we're just killing them, and it's terrifying. This was also just a very well played and well executed game from the side of Axis. They didn't fumble any of this really execution. They got the Baron and then basically death pushed. It was very clean, calculated, and this is honestly, this is going to hurt to say this for both of us, Initia1ise. I'm not surprised Axis were able to catch the ball from DFM after experiencing the Hawks game. Taking everything in, when they got that Baron, they just death pushed and ended the Hawks. They didn't even like try and fuck around. They just knew how to end the game. I'm not surprised when DFM did fumble that they were able to catch it. I don't know though if Axis and Spring would have been able to do this though, and that's a nice thing to say.
They started like this in Spring as well, as my problem. And there's a world where what happens is like, okay, yeah, Axis have got a decent read on the meta, but they kind of stall at a certain point with like getting better at the meta. And that's my worry with Axis. Like, okay, good start. Can you actually keep developing? Because the point is actually, eventually people become wise to the way you're playing, and also like if you're not developing in terms of like, okay, and these teams have just got better and we're still here, because actually, you know, like Axis have got some decent mechanics on there. Like Hoglet and Honey are pretty good. We know Megamin's a good solo queue player. Inno's got his moments, but like these guys hit a point where like actually the coordination, particularly in the mid and late game, really hurts them the further into the split they go. We saw that happen in Spring. We're like, okay,
we did.
Inno and Megamin kind of eventually just got a little bit caught out with like not sure what to do on the map and get murdered for it after, you know, Hoglet would have a really good early game, get things running. Honey trying his best, but it's not quite working out. This is a good start from Axis. I think particularly the win versus DFM. Yeah, it was a bit of a, we'll call it half luck, half actually good desperation moves. Like actually considering the situation.
Yeah, you do have to hope that DFM mental boom for you to even hope to have a chance there.
Well, also like actually like as far as like, okay, we've got a 10% chance to win, but this is the 10% chance.
Oh, but they played to it, yeah.
10% chance to take, you know, that kind of deal. You know.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So like that's good news because I think that's a bit of growth there as well. But I will like to see them 2 weeks from now, would be my thing. Even next week, because
I would agree.
To be able to like prove that they are going to get better and not just stall at this level.
So let's switch it over to the Hawks, who had a 1-on-1 week. And we've just talked about, obviously, they lost to Axis. Now, this wasn't a great loss for the Hawks here, but sadly, they got behind and they just had no catch-up mechanics. And we've kind of talked about this with Asylus. This is also similar for Viego. If he just gets behind a Nocturne, it's just going to be so difficult till mid to late game. Once you've got a kill or a bunch of CS under your belt to really try and do anything. Problem is, Inno was just so huge on this Nocturne. No one could 1v1 him. Not even Dasher. He was just slapping everybody with his wallet of 14.7k at the end.
He did all right.
That's not okay. And the Hawks fell behind and they had a comp that needed to get ahead early game. They didn't. So I'm not actually going to really flame them much for this because they fell behind and you can't really do much about it, right?
There was a couple dumb mistakes in the early game and then they were looking pretty good, and then there was that one Dragon fight and everything snowballs horribly from there. Like literally it's Dragon into Herald, into Nocturne diving and getting a double kill, into getting another Drake, into getting another couple kills,
and they just kept this tempo up.
And the snowball really started. And the problem is actually like when people like a Nocturne and a Diana snowball, like they just keep going because they really can just dive you and there's nowhere really safe. And again, the Hawks had very limited wave clear, like literally no wave clear. Like
Senna basically.
You had Lee Sin, like cripple.
Q?
Yeah, Lee Sin cripple.
Oh, get him in cripple and then ward jump back.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's kind of what you were doing. You're looking for the Q in for the E to ward hop back. You're looking at Sky Spitter from Volibear and Chain Lash from Silence. Like that's. I mean, can Senna Q a wave? Like, it's not fantastic.
I was a bit confused why Zenit wasn't playing the Senna and Corporal wasn't playing the Lee Sin. That was the more confusing thing, considering that Zenit is a Senna one trick. Wow. I was a bit confused about that one.
But clearly felt the Lee Sin was better on him. Anyway, the point is, like, actually, you've got like a Silas, a Lee Sin, a Volibear, a Viego who want to brawl, and the Silas and the Viego do scale. That's true, but actually in the mid game, if these guys can't actually sit and brawl, you lose the brawls, and your game's kind of done because that's
why it was a 31-minute game.
No way of like clearing waves to stop dives. And in fact, Hina in chat just said as well, like, according to the interview, that obviously, thank you again, Hina, for translating. Love you for that. Was saying, in the interview, just clicked R every time it was up. It's like...
Yep. Oh, we did. Yeah, absolutely. He was just like...
It's just like, this is a good snowball. So, good turning around from when it was even to actually running away with it. That's good stuff.
But on a more positive tone for the Hawks, while they had one game where it was kind of like, well, they lost early game, feels bad. They tried something cool with the Lee Sin center, but sadly, the rest of everything else was falling apart, so... apart for the cause. The game that went far more positively, and Zenit and Corporal, especially in this bot lane, are going to feel way better about, is their game against Burning Core. And this was a very brawly, heavy, intensive game. This was at points I was like, ooh, Burning Core might actually win this one. By the 50-minute mark, they just secured the Herald. They got first tar. Who got first tar actually in this game? I can't remember.
Is this the Burning Core Hawks game we're talking here?
Yeah, Burning Core Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Burning Core did, because they were really ahead in the early game. Like, once was on the Viego, he gets surveyed, he gets a couple kills. Ray Falky on the Nocturne, also getting pretty good. You got Nocturne Galio with a fed Viego, looking really, really good. Problem is, it's Set, it's a Set top. You got Set, Callista, Aatrox, even Diana to an extent. Like,
yep.
This is like full drain tank comp who want to brawl, and no one brought healing reduction, like active healing reduction. You have Proud on Tom Kench with a Thornmail. No one else brought healing reduction. I remember, like, the casters despairing about the lack of healing reduction. Because, like, look, Viego stops for an Executioners. Varus stops off for an Executioners. It's 800 gold, guys. Just get it. And you win this game. I'm not even joking. You were miles ahead. You win this game. Just get the Executioners. Like, you murder, like, they didn't, and they just lose every fight after, like, 20 minutes because they literally cannot murder the drain tanks.
And you know what I also want to give credit for? Because you and me, Initialize, have been flaming Hawks for a few weeks on this one. You know what they had in both these games, actually, even against Axis? Their vision control is finally there.
I mean, I will say, it helps that you were running a Callista to help you secure objectives. Like, that's like, I'm going to put these training wheels on. It's going to make everything okay.
I don't mind if they need the training wheels on, because guess what? Against Burning Core and against Axis, even when it wasn't looking great, they had far better vision control here. Against Burning Core, they prevented Burning Core from having important vision, and around that last team fight when it could have gone either way, they just knew exactly where Burning Core were coming in, and they were like, if we just layer like this, we just win, right? And they did! They just did! Ray Falky popped his ult, and they were like, it doesn't matter. They actually did that final team fight, remember? They caught Yuki out at the very beginning of it, and they didn't even have Corporal there. And Dasher 1v1'd Ray Falky in the side lane, won that, and they were like, oh, okay, so we just TP Baron, and then we just death push win, and that's exactly how it ended. They were just so good. It's just unfortunate that Yuki got caught out. But we'll talk about him later. This was just the Hawks. They're turning it around, and I don't know if Corporal listens to the podcast, but I mean, if he does, I'm sorry about flaming you for the vision control. But guess what? Your team turned it around, and you did good. Well done, sir.
Okay, bit of a clap. This was a decent game, honestly. I mean, it was looking a little bit scary early, but the fact
it was a fun game to watch, at least.
Yeah, but like Dasher had a phenomenal game. The Callista got to hop around. Like. Dasher, again, proving that he's still pretty damn good. Like, even in the loss later on, he was the guy on the sidelines that still looked pretty threatening. Was trying. I
mean, Hawk's side lanes was just always threatening, right? As on that Aatrox, as you're saying.
And again, like Tussle, like he was
the cannon fodder. He's the one that just died in the team fights, but everybody else survived.
And he's the one with less drain tanking, right? But the point is, if he's going in and starting things up, then that's fine.
He ults with Morellonomicon. It doesn't matter after that. Like, he applies the proc. No one's healing for the next few seconds.
Again, I'm not going to call him out as being the best jungler or even a particularly super strong jungler right now. But I will say that actually what I've seen in the first couple of weeks is he's actually been quite proactive, though. And, that's what the Hawks really need, is they do need Tussle to be on a front foot, because if it's ever, like, him kind of playing defensively, it looks less good, and this was a pretty good game, honestly. In fact, it was a really fun game. I enjoyed this game a lot, because you saw on the other hand, like, actually once on the Viego, pretty scary. Like that's a pretty cool pairing. There's a few champions in the meta night right now. It's like once on things like Gwen and Viego sounds pretty good to me. I'm excited to see some more of that kind of thing. Literally, as long as the coach just goes to them and says, please, buy healing reduction. Like, Garyado eventually got an Oblivion Orb, but, like, crazy late.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I think it's like Garyado got Flame Horizon on the Galio because, he was giving up farm to everybody else. And that's
Ray Farkey had a great game here, in all credit. Like, great calling out another player from the side of Burning Core. Because actually, let's actually start flipping this one, because I think we're mostly done with the Hawks now. Let's flip it over to Burning Core.
Not there yet. Like, they're kind of showing...
We want to see more growth.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, this is more what I was expecting from Spring. So I'm glad to see...
Agreed.
I'm glad to see they're kind of coming together a bit more now.
So Burning Core, obviously we're covering them. They went 0-2 this week. Sad for them. Though something I want to identify. Let's cover this Hawks game first before I really reveal the identifying point versus Donation Focus Me. But versus the Hawks, they played scrappy. They played good. It's unfortunate that Yuhi got caught out. I'm expecting Burning Core Academy Yuhi soon, but that's for later news for us to talk about, because I'm very excited about that announcement recently. But Academy Yuhi incoming, ladies and gentlemen. I expect it.
Frankly, I don't think he's... like, that sounds really harsh, but I just don't think... I still think Yuhi's a bit of an issue. Like, he's been better.
We'll talk about that in our week 4, week 5 super week break, where we might just do an episode of something, because we're going to have to do a tier list like that, buddy.
Yeah, like, again, I think he's been better, but than say like last year. But I still don't think he's. I
don't know. He had that series versus Donation Focus Me, right?
Like he's had the one series, exactly. But the problem is, I don't think he's particularly consistent. You've got a Tom Kent, just still die it. You can still go 0-4-7. Like that's.
He was never. He ran away from Proud. He actively fucked off from Proud, and Proud just was like, fine, I'm going to eat once and save him then.
Yeah, exactly. Like, my point is, I don't think Yuhi's a carry threat, and maybe we're harsh on him, but I do think he's a bit of an issue. But, like, actually, Once is still pretty good. Ray Farkey's still pretty good, especially if they get to play aggressive champions. Hooray! That's a kind of decent meta for the top side on that one. Unless you go to the DFM game where they did Jackal.
But I want to identify something, because Burning Core have got the 2 longest games in the season, both 45 and 43 minute games, right? This is like, it's weird. If we see another one of these, it stops being a coincidence and starts to become a pattern and a trend. And I'm wondering, have Burning Core figured out a way? Because remember, when they were against Sengoku last time, Ray Farkey was terrifying on that Jace, right? They didn't have that kind of a late game threat where it was just like, if we just get caught out or something scary happens, we could just lose. They didn't have that in this game. Has Burning Core actually figured out the secret source, at least from, if the bleeding is slow, they can keep it going for way longer than almost any other team? Are they just really good at turtling?
I think they're really good at like getting dumb Baron steals. Really?
What you're saying is Once is really good.
Once can be pretty good on carries and stuff. Like, we'll wait and
crazy.
See. like, Ezreal Braum is pretty tanky, and obviously DFM played that last game in particular very slow themselves. And again, my problem is I actually think that Burning Core were on the onus with Elise and LeBlanc to get things happening with that duo early on. They didn't. And then actually at that point, DFM go, well, we don't have to do, the first blood happens at 24 minutes or something in this game, which is pretty goddamn dumb.
It's so long.
It's like, well, we're under no obligation to start anything up. I
feel a little bit bad for our casters our guest casters that came in and
that was not the game.
Because I was originally down to cast that game, I remember, and I was like, afterwards, I was like, man, I should have pulled any strings I could have to try and cast that game, because Christ, I feel bad. I feel bad for having them cast it over. Like, wow, Euroway and Counterfeit, huge shout outs to those 2 casters. They definitely deserve for the work that they pulled this weekend and this game. Burning Core, though, the game went 45 minutes and they got a Baron steal, but did you actually think they were ever going to win this game?
Burning Core, after their early game? No.
I never actually thought they were going to win. They could have turned this game, but I never thought they would.
Unless the one angle was maybe the god tier Wukong flank where you get to kill everybody. But the problem was actually the LeBlanc was never threatening, especially not with the build she ends up having to go for. She went Zhonya's and Morello, second and third.
Do not like Gallialu's building paths over these last few games. Not a fan personally.
Yeah, and I get that somebody probably had to do some healing reduction, but I don't think you really need it because against your.
You don't put it on the LeBlanc.
Yeah, or you'd stop at Oblivion Orb. Like stop there.
Yeah,
so that's what you needed to do. Yeah,
I mean,
like
comp-wise, they kind of spiked mid-game, and then the moment they lost, it was like the moment they didn't win anything in mid-game, it was like, well, this is...
Yeah, they didn't get anything done with the LeBlanc and the Lee Sin early. They didn't really roam and get anything done. The Wukong never really found a particularly good engage, and, you know, Yuhi's Ezreal was fine. Like, it did decent damage, but it's what are you doing? That damage didn't really mean all that much when it's into, like, a tanking Viego and Renekton and, you know, Leona. So, you know, like, they hit a point where DFM literally go, okay, well, first round didn't work out. Or rather, they so they grab a second one and they just jump up like 3,000-4,000 gold and like, okay, game's done, just play it slow from here. And I just don't think I didn't see any hint of a turnaround really. Once didn't find much on the Lee Sin, and part of that I think was they went for early game agency and it didn't work out. And then, you know, at that point you really are relying on Miracle Kick, God tier Wukong Cyclone. It just didn't manage to kick off.
Absolute wildest. But I mean, that's Burning Core. They went 0-2. Their game against the Hawks was at least a really compelling one and fun to watch. Their game against Dead Nation Focus Me was a game I'm never returning to. After this podcast, I'm never returning to that game.
Again, like they weren't that was a bad game for Burning Core. I think the first game they're going to feel a bit frustrated about because they were absolutely in a position where they could have taken that.
Yeah.
And they, like, again, they come out. What are they? 1-3 at the minute. They went 1-1 first week.
They're 1-3. So yeah, they're same with DFM and Sengoku.
They are like. I think they potentially look better than Sengoku potentially, but we'll have that conversation.
Almost next, not quite though, because I want to talk about. Crest Gaming Act.
Okay.
Because Crest Gaming Act is maybe.
Look, I'm casting. Whee! Flip a coin. Whee!
I mean,
flip a coin.
I actually think now you just need to start flipping coins for the bot lane of Crest Gaming Act as well as Kassin. You have to flip 2 coins at the same time. If they both come heads, you're guaranteed to win the game. It doesn't matter who you're against. If they have a part, it doesn't matter. Alchemy's going to be doing great stuff. Milan's going to have a good laning phase for once. Kassin's going to get all the ganks off, and hopefully Nap and Nation don't have a problem. This game against V3 Esports was just painful to watch from a bot lane perspective. As a Milan supporter, it hurt me a lot. And then Kassin just had an atrocious game.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit earlier, and we'll leave it at that. This is the other side of Kassin, basically. He only goes forward. He's on the Xin Zhao. And they just couldn't buy cooldowns. Like, that's the whole thing. Like you've got to be able to get something out, preferably, honestly, with the LeBlanc, because she's the one who can dump in and jump out and try and burn some cooldowns before you go in. And they just wouldn't. They just go in. That's something you're never going to win that, ever. And, you know, they just bad game sense. And then you look at the other one.
So they lost the whole game. They were 4.5k behind. Sengoku looked like they should win this game. It's great. And then Kassin with the coin.
I mean, like, this was the Kha'Zix game. Like, he was the one threatening part of this game for a long time. Him and Nation looked pretty okay on the LeBlanc Kha'Zix. Nap was kind of just farming away in the top side and feeling okay. But Milan and Alchemy were absolutely ass blasted, frankly. No other way to put it. Like, they was like lost first tower, all plates at 10 minutes, down 50
I never
CS.
knew that that's what I needed to hear from you.
Yeah,
there we go.
Everything's like, I feel like at some point it was a Flame Horizon as well, close to. They still ended the game, Gang go up like 80 CS. Milan was out of this game, and CGA did not manage to defend the bot lane particularly well, because effectively what happened is they burn double summoners in the first dive and then come back out. And they just return 2 minutes later with the Herald, and they dive them. There's no teleport responses, and, you know, they get 2 kills over, they lose turrets, they lose 2. And the thing is, the first time Milan has to flash and lose the wave, comes back, or loses 2 waves, comes back. Second time loses 2 waves. It's like at this point, it's not even really Milan's fault. It's not even really Alchemy's fault at this point. Like, this is the whole game plan. It's Xin Zhao, Kalista, Rakan. Like, they are going to dive you.
Go. Fast.
They're going to dive you. And, you know, again, like, you've got no way to... I mean, like, really, it would have been nice to see probably a Zaya here maybe might have been an easier choice. But the thing is, at this point, okay, it's kind of doomed. Cassin, at least, on the Kha'Zix, manages to get a couple really key assassinations. He catches Ramune out as he's, like, trying to put some vision in the jungle. He's trying to play safe, and Kha'Zix basically gets used to Prowler's Claw and abuses him. There's another one where he Prowler's Claws onto NT in a turnaround just before Dragon as well, which is pretty big, you know.
And the side of CGA, they kept the game very competitive. They, like, even when Sengoku were able to get that Baron, the first Baron, it actually wasn't a great Baron for them. Because, yes, they did kill Cassin, but they lost everybody but NT. I mean, a huge ultimate came out from Milan, with Nap playing around it beautifully, and we got two double kill for Nap and double kill for Nation, and Milan was actually getting pretty much left alone in a lot of the team fights that came mid to late game, so he was just able to just auto attack double up, just doing a lot of misfortune stuff. It didn't look like, I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance, and then obviously Sengoku Gaming get to 3 kills, 2 towers and a dragon in the space of like 3 minutes, and I'm like, oh, actually no, this game's just doomed. They've got a huge lead. Oh wait, no. Somehow, Crest Gaming Act are able to secure the Baron. Like, the Sin is actually just... Yeah. I don't even know.
So what this is as well, right? Like, okay, so at this point, you've got to understand, this was lethality MF. So it's not regular auto attack, it's not Kraken Slayer, it's not Gale Force, it's lethality MF. And there was, again, no tanks on the side of Sengoku. So that lethality value goes way up. And Misfortune's ult hits like a goddamn truck with that. With those items.
It reminds me of the MF that we first started casting over.
Yeah.
Do you remember that all the way back then in Season 10?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Where there was like Sven got double pentas this lock-in last year, like this time.
Yeah.
Like when we started casting as well, it was pretty scary. And like this was the kind of deal. It's like, okay, so MF has to burn ult to clear waves in mid, but what they do is stall. They manage to stall to the point where, like, okay, we now have items, and then Milan gets the mother of all ults at Baron, murders multiple people, does like a 6,000 damage by themselves in a team fight. It's like, okay, that's great. And Gango is the guy with all the lead. Like, he gets a massive lead on Kalista and cannot leverage it. Like, they cannot find a team fight where they get Gango to auto-attacking. Like, I saw one proactive Fate's Call in the mid-game with the Rakan. And the problem with Sengoku Gaming is like, fantastic, you're great at getting all these early towers, but the moment it hits 20 minutes, you seem to have no clue what to do on the map, no clue how to force plays. And
it was like,
we were allowed this Misfortune to stall, survive, and then turn around and ult you all at Baron and murder you all.
Yeah, and there was no reason that they even needed to fight at that Baron pick, because they had already missed the engage. NT had already missed the Rakan engage, so it's like, guys, you can just chill out now, just don't do anything stupid, and it should be okay. I'm still saying, if you've got pretend investment mental stock in CGA, I recommend selling that.
It's good. It's a risky investment.
It is maybe the most volatile stock in the LJL. They could win everything out, but I am not expecting them to do so. I'm expecting some pretty...
So here's some stats for you, Lexi, by the way, from this one. Okay, so Gango, despite having a monumental gold lead, right? Like he was like 3-4k ahead individually to 12.9k damage. Still the most on his team. But like, you know, Crash also 12.4, Paz did 12.5. Then you look over at the side of CGA. Nation on the LeBlanc does 22.1 thousand damage. So, like about 10,000 more damage, just shy, 9.5. And then you look at Milan, despite being down ATCS, despite losing first turret all plates, does 30.8 thousand damage that game.
MFO is fair and justified, apparently.
Well, yeah, got a couple of those ones, and like that's the point, right? Like, you know, the thing is, this is my problem with Sengoku. You had all the tools to force. All the tools.
Oh, they should have won this. This should have been it.
Absolutely hellish. Because, you know, she stands in ults and you just dive her. Or you're Silas and you steal the ult. And they just couldn't do it.
Oh, like, you Kalista roll, knock her up. You've got so many tools, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this shouldn't have been... This should have been very, very difficult. Credit to Milan for finding the angles and, you know, all the rest of it, and Nation for being
and this
menace.
team also protecting.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then for Nation and Cassin being menace on the double assassins, right? But at the same time, like, Sengoku Gaming, what the hell are you doing? Like, the game stuff is problematic.
I think that's actually probably a perfect time for us to go over and actually swing over to Sengoku Gaming's perspective, Initialize, because Crest Gaming Act, they eventually got the win over Sengoku Gaming in a pretty well played state, though they lost horrendously to V3 Esports.
Yep.
Sengoku Gaming going 0-2. Instead of losing horrendously to V3 Esports, for like Crest Gaming Act did, they lost horrendously to Rascal Jester in arguably just as bad fashion.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I had this conversation earlier. It was like, I know Ramune is 0-6-1. I know it's not looking fantastic, but at the same time, like, his team.
He started the snowball, though.
Well, his team put him in that position where, like,
but he gave first blood, though.
Well, exactly. Well, and again, this is one of those ones where, like, again, like, I'm gonna have to get Melvin as well to go over this, because obviously he was casting this one, and he was basically saying.
Yes.
So I had a conversation with him afterwards. Saying, look, I know it doesn't look good, and you're right, it isn't. But at the same time, like, he is clearly called down by his team to come down and engage in this fight. They think they can do something there. Like, he's called down, he comes, he dies. That's not great, but that's just team comms, right? He
Agreed.
then,
Yeah,
he was then
absolutely.
left in an awful position in mid, like, not good. With, like, the wave's bad, like, he's in a bad position. He's just, and, like, his team just leave him. They just don't know what to do with him. They leave him there dying. It's like just like Entini or Crash needs to come up and just shield him a little.
It
bit.
was
Because like what does he do? Like,
oh, honestly, like, I mean, so the problem was he gave over first blood, and then pretty much the moment that Hachimetra hit 6, they went for the dive in mid. I think Hachimetra was 7 and Recap. No, Hachimetra was 6. Recap was 7. They land the Nocturne. They get the tether. Ramune flashes to get rid of the tether, but then because Hachimetra follows up the flash, I believe. Recap has put the ball on him. They get the shockwave, and then they just kill him. And it's like Ramune's 0-2 down, and now he's like. He's like 3.5 waves now at this point down in actual CS, and it's like, well, game's over. Like, game's actually over for Ramune at this point.
Because there's no way you get to play safe versus that duo. Like, they dive you and it's awful. Like, it's brutal stuff. And, like, either Crash or Enti needs to come and support you there. Like, that's not on you in some ways, especially when you're already kind of backing away, right? Like, there's only
and it's so hard to follow up. It's so hard to know when that's going to happen because it's Hachimetra and it's a Nocturne.
Exactly, and that's partly my issue. Like, yes, it's not a good game from Ramune, but it's exacerbated by mad amounts by the team that just doesn't play around him at all, especially when they needed to in this circumstance. And
well, there was also the other point, right? No, where was the counterplay? If Ramune is getting dumpstered, right, by Hachimetra and Recap, where is the counter? Engage. Where's the counterplay of the cross-map stuff, right?
Volibear. You can dive towers with impunity. With that combo, Volibear comes in, shuts off the tower. Lee Sin or Lee Sin goes and kicks. Volibear jumps after to turn off the tower. Like, you've got so many combos there where you murder kids. Like, it's.
But Initialize. Kanatu 1 lane. How did that happen?
That was a bit.
That's not how that's meant to go.
That's part of the problem again, right? And, like, you know, if I go back to the. Right, and it wasn't a good game, and yes, it kind of all snowballs off the first blood, but the point is, you do need your team to come and do some anti-snowballing, and they clearly can't, at least through mid. And I'll also say, like, if you go back to the other game which they played, which of course is versus CGA, Ramune gets a fantastic solo kill with the stolen LeBlanc ult and then gets out and it looks pretty good. They do really well getting the massive lead in the bot side. But again, it's sort of like these like, they just don't seem to have any proactivity post 20 minutes, which has always been their. Because remember last split as well, great massive early game stats, and they just wouldn't do anything for 20 minutes for 10 minutes, so until they got a Baron somehow later on. And that 20 to 30 minute mark where they just seem to be so inactive is problematic. And again, there's still a bit of disconnect with Ramune, where he like he's on a flank, he's looking pretty good, and like they all pull him off, and it's like, oh guys, you're pulling off, and I am like way left in no man's land. I'm like
super deep. Yeah.
Like what do you mean we're pulling off at this point? Like, you need to give me a way out here. And that is still, we kind of called it before we came into this split. Like, look, there needs to be more cohesion between Ramune and the squad one way or another, or this is going to be problematic, and it's still problematic. And you know,
it looked worse this week than last week, which is kind of saying something.
Because like, actually, you saw some really good plays from Ramune too. Like, the death to Cassin in the jungle was not good. Like, it was bad. But, you know, actually, like, the cohesion, like, NT manages to, like, get caught out by the Prowler's Claw turnaround from Cassin, who gets to R Prowler's Claw to kill the Rakan. I wanted to call him Renekton, which is wrong. Other R champion. But yeah, bad week from Sengoku. Sort yourselves out in the mid game, please. Yeah,
we'll find out how Sengoku Gaming do this. Going into next week's game, I believe we actually already have, at least internally, confirmed who our game of the week is going to be for next week, and that is going to be Detonation Focus Me facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, I think, or is it Crest Gaming Acts? Let me just double check that. Crest Gaming Act. It's Crest Gaming Act versus DFM. Yes, the team that can flip versus absolutely anything, facing off against Detonation Focus Me. It should definitely be an interesting one to see how that game goes down. A lot of the other games are interesting, so that's going to be our main one, and we'll be covering that one live.
I think the reason is for that one is like, okay, CGA looking for some consistency, DFM looking for some consistency. Both these squads have had, great parts of their game and really bad parts of their game. And we're kind of looking to see whether either of these teams can stabilize. DFM in particular on that front. Because, there's been 2 games now where they've got like 5k plus gold leads and then thrown it away. And they need to not do that. And like CGA is like, okay, Cassin, you're either really good or just exceptionally bad. And this needs to be solved one way or another.
Also, the bot lane for Crest Gaming Act needs to be fixed at some point. Like, I'll be honest. I'm a big Milan supporter because he's a scouting grounds boy, but like,
yeah, like Milan is fine in team fights. Like, he's genuinely pretty good in the main. But like, the lane he's solving, I grant you, Alchemy is not the person I would pair with a rookie support in order to give them a stable lane. No. That would be Reiner, incidentally, who I think has done quite a good job at bringing up AD carries. Like, great Thresh player. That sounds wonderful for an AD carry who needs someone to keep you alive, Make some plays with this one. I wonder if you switched Hollow and Milan, how either of these AD carries would look. And how much of it is, the other heart of the duo. But, like, yeah, I think Milan, in fairness, like, the Misfortune game versus CGA was just, like, that's not on laning mechanics. Really, that is on. We've been dived twice, and that's macro.
Yeah, that was just they couldn't do anything in that matchup. They were just put really far behind early game, but then thankfully they were able to find a avenue back in, right?
Yeah, and I think part of it as well is that there's a learning curve to getting the most from being in bad situations, which I don't think Milan necessarily has got solved quite yet.
Sure. How do you play a losing lane as an AD carry in a competitive
fight? Trying to get as much CS out of it as you can, and that's still problematic. I still think Milan's CS in lane is CS per minute and CS in lane is not good, and that's hurting him as well. So yes, we'll find out.
We will indeed find out. 10 a.m. this Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, we will be live covering the last 4 games, and then we'll do our standard switch over and do the first 4 games. So the first 4 games live are going to be, or the last 4 of the official stream. First 4 for us is going to be Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming facing off against Rascal Jester to open us up. Then we'll be having Rascal Jester face off against Crest Gaming Act. Following that, we're getting the DFM double bill with Crest Gaming Act facing off against DFM, and then DFM facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks to end out the live coverage before we then rotate around and do our blast from the past and very recent past. First off, V3 Burning Core versus Axis facing off Sengoku to close us out. A pretty banger of a game, actually, assuming Sengoku can actually figure something out. Sengoku versus V3 Esports. Obviously, I've already mentioned where our match of the day is going to be Crest Gaming Act versus Detonation Focus Me. Anything else here you want to highlight?
I think that feels pretty good to me. I'm hitting the point where I'm healing my stomach growl. It's like, dinner time.
All right, well, we've got one small announcement to make. And before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, over in the Twitch chat, or if you're watching this recorded or listening to this on any of the audio streaming platforms, first off, like, subscribe, comment, all that other stuff. But if you have a question for us on our podcast, hit us a DM on Twitter. You can easily jump in and ask a question in our Twitch chat if you're watching live right now, or you can go to our Discord, join our Discord, lovely community, get your fan role to represent and support your team, and then you can drop us a question over there. Now, while people are making questions and everything, small little announcement for the LJL, and it's something I am very excited to talk about, because I can finally get my soapbox away, because the LJL is officially getting an Academy League coming in for 2022 split.
That's great.
Oh, it's been an interesting time for us, because we came in about a year and a bit after the old kind of challenger system that existed beforehand in the LJL. We came in a fair bit after that was already dissolved. This was also because the LJL itself had actually completely changed how it was going to work, its playoff system and everything else. But because of that, now the LJL is getting Academy. We had been hearing rumors of this, and if you've been listening to podcasts for a while, you'd be like, wait a moment, I thought this was something you guys already talked about and said it might be happening. It is now. They've tweeted it out officially. So what's some of your thoughts on this, Sam? Because you've been hearing me yelling for it for ages.
All I'm saying is there were rumors behind the scenes that a lot of the teams were forcing it, because otherwise they were just going to say, yeah, well, if you're not going to allow us to have Academy teams because we can't develop roster in the region, we're just going to go play in Korea, and we'll have our subs play in the LJL because we're going to get better stuff out of this. So, yeah, sort it. So that was what the rumors were saying. I can't guarantee that being true, but that is a hefty rumor to have going around. And clearly the LJL has acquiesced. I think it's a good idea. I think if you want the scene to grow, then having another route for amateur talent to come up and develop, because like actually a lot of the guys who come into the LJL out of scouting grounds effectively have looked a bit too raw to be on stage, honestly. They're not like, people like Milan, people like Megumin. You can see these guys have got talent. Like, look, we've seen Axis win a few games early on in the split because these guys do have talent. The problem is, the more you get through, the more competitive experience you acquire, just to sort of know what to do on the map at every given second, like just how quickly you make decisions.
And for every Kanatu that we get, and for every Kanatu where they come in, they have a banger of a rookie split there with great people that's going to foster their talent. For every one of those, there's about 5 or 6 guys or girls that just kind of get left to the side and don't get the same attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the easy way to put it. Like,
yeah,
so
UGO's the easiest one.
I think it's a good call. Whether this will be Academy teams of the actual main 8, or whether it'll be like...
It is.
Oh, it will be? Okay, cool.
It is, yep. In the announcement, they said every single team that's in the LJL has to roster an Academy team. Awesome. It's why we saw V3 Esports at the beginning of last September, actually, already putting out stuff and trying to get Academy players. And it was like, wait, why are you guys trying to get loads more players? It's really sketchy. Is this what's actually happening? Loads of digging, and it's official. We are planning to do coverage. We are planning to do coverage. It makes it would be kind of hilariously ridiculous if we did the LJL but then didn't do the Academy system. So most likely we will be doing something, but obviously details will be as we get them from partly the official LJL, as the league doesn't start till the end of August anyway, so we've got a few months until that, and we should actually be fully done with LJL before Academy starts, so might be a fun thing to kind of keep us going and have some content when things might die down a little bit in between LJL and Worlds, and then definitely afterwards, potentially if we've got Academy going on the off season, that'd be pretty cool for us. But with that all said, I think we got a few questions actually over in the Discord.
We did.
So...
a couple.
Right.
Kirby's one? Looks pretty good to me.
Yeah. EX Kirby asks us, so who's actually making playoffs at this point? Wow. Starting with the loaded one. Let's do this together. Let's do the exercise, right? So
I think like there are 3 teams I think you can pretty much guarantee at this point, and that is Rascal Jesters and V3. And then I would argue probably still DFM, because I think it would be very stupid to count them out. So that's 3.
Yeah, of course.
3 more spaces. So at which point we're now left with
I think the Hawks make it.
You thinking the Hawks? Okay, well you do yours at this point. That's my 3. I think are guaranteed to come in. Who do you think?
I agree with you on the guarantee 3.
Yeah.
I think the guarantee 3 are a guarantee.
Hawks.
I think Hawks will make it. And now, how much does the heart want stuff, and how much does the brain want stuff?
Yeah, go on.
I mean, in wise, Sengoku are too good of a team to not make it.
Okay, you think Sengoku one more team?
Oh, man. All right. Cross Gaming Act.
Okay. CBA. So I
don't think Axis or Burning Core will make it.
Okay. So for me, I think it's... I wonder whether... I don't think Axis make it. I think they're going to struggle to hold on.
Agreed.
I'm going to put the wild card out. I think Sengoku collapse.
So you think Burning Core are going to take their spot?
I think this is an okay meta for Burning Core. But the other thing is, this is my hot take. This is my one where I'm going, okay.
Yeah, of course.
I'm thinking between Hawks, I'm thinking between CGA, I'm thinking Burning Core, I'm thinking Sengoku, who I think are probably the ones who've got the most chance of getting in there in some way. I think they've all got quite discernible flaws. I just think that at the minute, if you can do things like Viego and Gwen and Lee Sin and Jin Zhao, that sounds absolutely phenomenal for the top half of the map for Burning Core, which it just wasn't in the meta in spring. And if they're potentially getting somebody to come in the bot side to shore up where he's been a bit problematic, then that sounds pretty good. I think Sengoku have got very big issues in the mid game still. I think Sengoku also do not have like a massive communication issue with Ramune as well. I don't know which way around that's going. I don't know how that's playing out, but I think it's pretty problematic. I think my problem with Axis is they've got a couple win. They've got one win which was really, really good this week, and one win which was like quite fortunate. And I think that's going to become less and less easy to do the further into the split this goes.
They were very fortuitous. I mean, so a bit of a counterpoint for Sengoku, if I may, because the reason I went for them is they did this exact same shit. They did. And they turned it around. They eventually figured out a way of turning it around. And I can just see them doing it again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason this is my bold call. Right, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Or if not, what I might do is just like say, okay, it's going to be the same playoffs teams as last split, but just switch to Hawks and Burning Core. Might be the other way of doing it.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, that's fair.
Doing it. Okay. All right, that's enough of that one. There's the discussion points. It's the two teams that don't make it. So I think the Axis +1 of, realistically, in some order, Hawks, Burning Core, CGA, or Sengoku. That's a lot of teams there. I think probably realistically, Burning Core or Hawks, but Sengoku, if they don't manage to fix things, could seriously drop more. If they drop more games next week, they could be in a lot of trouble.
I think we'll have a far better idea on trajectory of where teams are by week 4 as well. I think this will be a great kind of middle one. This is why we always love doing the podcast one where we do our kind of power rankings and everything, where we rank all the teams and everything and what we think of them in between our break of week 4. Maybe we're going to do a special one, as tier lists seem to be doing really good things in the current meta game of podcasting. So might have to steal a book from UK... UK
was, yes.
Yes, I can remember things. Hina, our beloved translator, has graced us with a few questions. So let's run through these. Okay. Oh, damn, that's a bit of a paragraph. God, I'm dyslexic. That's fucked up. Seeing regions last split, at least one you watched. And seeing the power rankings of MSI, what do you think of the LJL in general now? Every region seems shaky, but I wonder, do you think the LJL is more shaky compared to other regions? Groups within reach, or do you think the gap is bigger now? So I think we first off have to disclose which regions we're actively paying attention to. So I'm only really paying attention to LEC and LCS, and I watch a little bit of LPL and a little bit of LCK. I've pretty much forgotten about watching any other region at this point. I mean, what about you?
Mostly watch LEC and LCS on, but I'm not like being super critical about it. I'll put that one out. I watch top end of LCK, and I watch like important matches from LPL. There's so much LPL content there that I have to go with kind of a little bit cliff notesy there.
You also do cover, obviously, the UK Academy scene, so I don't know if that gives you much insight in anything.
Well, no, it doesn't, because it means I'm not paying attention to the top-tier leagues as much, basically, because I'm doing other stuff.
I've not been doing my normal LLA thing like I was doing last split, sadly. But hey, you can't keep up with everything. LLA is pretty early on, and I know Furious and Infinity are still doing really, really well, so that's kind of been the only thing. I'll probably catch up with that later on. Okay. What do we think of the LJL? Do we think they're shaky compared to other regions, or do we think they're about on par with other regions?
So I think, in my mind,
Hmm.
the LPL and the LCK still look pretty good. I think LEC is looking a little bit messy, but like there's talent there, and like the LCS. 100 Thieves are looking good. Genuinely, they look pretty good. And now the top 10 power ranking thing that's going on right now, dropping RNG out for them,
Oh, what
is
the
potentially a little bit dumb. But I do think 100 Thieves are going to be a decent team. I really do. What I'll say is a lot of the teams who've come back from MSI look a bit shaky. A lot of them do.
Yeah, and C9 also was clearly having internal problems to some degree.
Exactly. Or I think Sven was just hadn't been playing the right stuff recently, and things weren't looking particular. So there was just some changes coming.
He also could have just been burnt out.
Yeah, exactly.
And wanted 2 weeks off, right?
So there's an element of that, right? And I'm not going to comment. Maybe stuff comes out at some point. I know Sven said it might, so we'll hope out. Anyway,
we won't talk about Team Liquid.
Yeah, exactly. But like, there's there are like, so the LCS has struggled a lot with the roster shifts, which I don't think has helped.
No.
And like LEC like looks okay, but we'll wait and see how the top of that table ends up shifting up and shaping out. I think as far as like now context for the LJL, I think it will depend how quickly DFM recover, or if they do. Because I actually think at the top end, people like Rascal Jester and V3 look pretty good, actually. They've got a solid team,
I agree.
They've got a solid read on the meta. They're playing pretty clean League of Legends. They know what they want to do. They've got some fun drafts.
And they've adapted well to this metagame as well.
Exactly that. And I want to see a couple more bows and strings in the bow, rather not bows on the string. That would be a bit weird. Wrong way round. But the point still stands, actually, if DFM pull it together, that's great news. If Sengoku pull it together as well to have another team that's looking pretty good, that's great. And the thing is, we do really want DFM to go just on a mechanical muscle basis. Probably. Unless one of these teams can prove us wrong. Because actually, I would be quite excited to see a really good Rascal Jesters go, for example, because I think there's talent on that roster too. But if DFM pull it together and continue to, like, the trajectory is upwards and they do well in playoffs and then they get to Worlds, I think they can be as threatening as they were at MSI, because what MSI basically proved was actually our playbook works and our players stand up to international competition. That's great news.
Yeah.
Will they manage? I mean, like, will they manage to get there is a different matter. Who managed to get there is a different matter. But groups should be within reach, assuming trajectories, right? Like, actually, if it turns out that DFM somehow claw their way through, or Rascal Jesters get there and Kinatu has a tough time against, like, who ends up going, like, Nuguri or something, or who's EDG's top laner right now? Is it Flandre? Like,
yes.
EDG are just, like, destroying the LPL right now, and Viper comes in and just, like, crushes everyone, then, maybe it's different. I'm
actually a little bit more pessimistic than you are. You're typically more optimistic, just naturally out of the two of us. I'm actually pretty concerned for the overall power level. I've not been particularly impressed with the level of play coming out from Rascal Jesters and V3 at the moment. I think it's fine, but it's kind of standard LJL stuff. And we started to see non-LJL stuff. Like, I was, like, genuinely, like, impressed with the level of play, and I think we've gone down more than just a step from where I was expecting, because you expect the first few weeks you take a step down, maybe 2. This is a bit larger than I was expecting, and someone was probably going to end up 4-0. Rascal Jester were the team. I think they deserve it. I don't think they're particularly special, and I think if you put them in LCK or LEC, I think they would struggle. I don't think they would be doing as well. I think they would be middle of the pack at best. That doesn't mean it's bad, because that's where we've always kind of pegged top LJL teams, normally middle of the pack. Maybe if it was DFM when they're on a hot streak, or V3 last summer, maybe in the slightly higher echelons. But I'm pretty worried for our region at this point in time.
Let's see where we're at post Super. We said exactly the same thing in spring.
We need to get good
spring. And I'm looking over at, like, LEC, LCS, even LCK. Actually, yeah, especially LCK to fair. Like, and like these regions aren't looking especially clean either. Actually, so that's the reason I'm saying, like, yeah, I feel like everyone's kind of taking a step down. Partly because the metagame has changed so much that people are still kind of like learning how to play clean on the current patches.
I would argue that top teams in other regions look particularly scary, like scarier. Like I would argue Misfits look very comfortable. I think 100 Thieves look terrifying. Generation Gaming or Gen G, however you want to fucking refer to them.
That's like the full name of their thing. Huh.
They are absolutely terrifying, and obviously today's matches we had LNG Sports absolutely just destroy. It was disgusting. I was able to catch that game live, and I haven't seen much of Edward Gaming, but I've been told it's EDG is a sight to behold at the moment. So I'm a little bit petrified that I'm being told very scary things about some of the top teams in regions. I know Misfits are kind of the only team where everyone's kind of giving a little bit like a, yeah, but just wait and off a little bit. I'm a little bit scared because I do think the top teams, but then that's always been the difference, right? Maybe if I had more context from my other minor regions, it'd be better. But the big fucking problem for me, and for yourself as well, Initialize, is our main way of knowing how good the LJL is we watch some VCS games and we are able to gauge some stuff from there. We don't have that at the moment, which hopefully VCS is coming back soon. Hopefully VCS will come back and it can help us get a decent gauge on the LJL again, because they're the tier 2 region that does scrim us. So if we're looking good, they look good, everybody looks good. He comes in with a quick question just to do it. Can't teams just fill the LJL team if they don't make worlds for academy? Good pickup actually on that. I don't know how that works. I imagine there's probably a clause in somewhere that prevents.
It's an entirely different time from LJL split. Yeah, that's true.
I have to imagine there's a clause if they've played the regular split, they can't play.
It depends how willing people are to do some loopholey stuff. But yeah, potentially. I don't know. I've not seen the rules as yet. I hope not.
I've not seen it either. Well, we've not got any rules or anything out, I believe, yet. I mean, we've got is like a temporary page at the moment on Leaguepedia with the start date of the 30th, and we're just like, yep, that's all we know.
We'll find out.
When we find out, we'll let you know, because I think it's important. But honestly, I think we're pretty much done.
Let's end it. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, with that said then, Initialize.
Yes.
If our people are on the YouTube, what would we like them to do as this podcast is coming to an end?
Like, subscribe, keep those notifications on, share it everywhere you can, and please actually watch the video. That would be great. Yeah.
Oh, if you're not going to watch it, just put it on your phone and then walk away, and then come back to it a few hours later, and probably the autoplay's done. And it's great for us. iTunes, rate 5 stars, write a review for us, and if you do on YouTube or on iTunes, we'll give you a shout out. One shout out per episode. Hopefully we can keep that going. That'll be pretty good fun. Catch me on @MaskedSwan, @Initialize with a 1, remember, on Twitter.
No L, because
or you can catch it in the show notes, because it's always there. But from myself, Initialize, and the whole LJLOU team, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all very soon.
Bye-bye.